Zayn is easily one of the best characters in the Aphmau universe. Not only does his voice actor do an incredible job, he's also written insanely well, and he always stays super consistent, which is kind of a huge problem with a lot of these characters. Sometimes they go from being amazing to super inconsistent to just straight up irrelevant. I'll find out what happened to you, I swear. Zayn definitely had some weird moments for the sake of drama and doing certain things for the sake of the story, but there's also a ton of moments where it feels pretty in character. He really has changed a lot over the years, and it's pretty surprising that he wasn't given the spotlight that much, but ultimately I think that was for the best, because that kind of makes him a better character since every time we saw him, we ended up wanting way more. A lot of people will say that if he was given the spotlight though, then he would have been ruined, but we're not gonna listen to those people. By the way, I'm not doing this to make fun of anyone or to hate on anything, I just want to look back on Zayn as a character and start a discussion. And if you all like these types of videos, then please like and subscribe. It would really mean a lot, and it helps me continue to make videos that you all want to see. Also, feel free to leave a comment down below of what you want the next video to be. I always read all my comments, and the ideas definitely help out, so please leave a comment down below and please like the video. The first time we actually see Zayn is in Minecraft Diaries Season 1, and he was set up to be the main antagonist, and he was a very good one. Our first impressions of him were kind of nothing, but as time goes on, we see exactly how he operates as a character. He wasn't super evil in the first few episodes, but every time he showed up, you can tell he had power and he was a threat. It was a huge build up until that final battle in the Irene dimension. Honestly, when you look back, he was sort of playing the long game, and I always thought it was super cool. And it definitely made that final confrontation so much cooler because he had been planning all this out and trying his best to achieve what he wanted, only for it to kind of get ripped away at the end. He's so cool! But, I mean, he was honestly a menace to society though. He first shows up in episode 50 of Minecraft Diaries, and Zayn is here as a high priestess for the wedding ceremony. He was invited to perform in the ceremony because Okasas apparently owed a favor to someone. I always found this moment interesting because at this point in the series, he was kind of just another Lawrence. His character was proper and charming, and he always had a high status and was sort of a complete opposite to Aphmau, since he knew the ins and outs of being in power while Aphmau just kind of had the position and was working it out as she went along. And looking back, I think it was a great choice to add him here, especially when he made his true intentions clear right away so you got to know the type of person he truly was. In episode 51, Zayn first politely asked for Garv to dress for the occasion as his tradition and safety and junk, and when this is rejected, he then starts demanding, showing little hints of his character. He then goes to say that he will even refuse to do the ceremony if Aphmau's guard isn't properly dressed. I remember being a kid and just wanting to skip this scene, but looking back, this perfectly shows Zayn's character off in Diaries. He was calm and punctual and knows how to get his way. He knows Aphmau isn't exactly a real lord, or even an experienced one at that. Zayn uses high status and tricks to sort of steer things into his way. Even going on saying that it may cause problems with Okasas, which is kind of insane. His plan really gets going when he shows up, reveals that he's related to Garv, then drops all of this information about him and is like, alright, if you want to know more, then come to the back of the school, I'll tell you everything. And then he just dips. He's a very tricky boy, and it's quickly shown that he really isn't someone to be messed with. Truly do believe that him being a villain in this point is honestly the perfect choice because Phoenix Drop High is finally becoming a real village, a real place for everyone to visit and everything, and at this point we hear about other places and it starts foreshadowing what's gonna eventually happen. I'll talk about that later. Then of course Zayn comes in with the lore and the politics, and which Aphmau is completely out of her element, and that's cool. Zayn puts it perfectly when he tells her that it's not all about weddings and fun. Once again, perfectly shows what could happen if some misunderstandings between villages and the neighboring lords and all that could, you know, I'm gonna talk about that later. It's really cool. It's at this point that Minecraft Diaries is going to start taking a different turn. And Zayn has done some pretty messed up stuff, like performing a ritual which turned a child into a Shadow Knight. And then he just kind of dips for a while only to come back in, no, he killed Jeffrey! Ah! He manipulates Scaleswind, which further puts Phoenix Drop into more danger and a possible war. He also sacrificed a bunch of people for the research of Shadow Knights, and he definitely knew what he was doing. He was not just visiting Phoenix Drop for the sake of like, sure, I owe someone a favor. No, he found his brother, planted some seeds since he knew Garv had run away, then he gave some cursed items to people which turned to the amulet, then manipulated both Phoenix Drop and Scaleswind and started a war with each other, and during the commotion, he corrupted Garv to join his cause, which during that commotion, he stole the amulet to open a portal to the Irene dimension, ultimately being revealed that his plan was to get Irene's relic so that he can get way more power. And knowing what we do about this version of Zayn, you can imagine the whiplash we got from seeing him in a normal semi-modern world where Zayn is just a normal guy who does a little bit of trolling. Mystreet for me has always been an interesting choice because making these characters basically the same but in a different universe and being put through shenanigans is kinda crazy. The way Aphmau handled Zayn in this was basically to dial him down a bit and give him some traits to make him a bit more likable, like liking ponies I guess. And one of those things that quickly made him a fan favorite was when Aphmau befriended him. This not only gave him a good chance to be in the spotlight, but it also gave us time to see what his character is really like. He first does start out being evil by taking Christmas, but he quickly warms up to Aphmau when they realize that they have in some things in common. And and we end up learning that Zayn isn't exactly a horrible person. I mean, he is pretty rude, but he has layers! Zayn is actually a very decent guy when you get to know him, and he really calms down a bit. And I honestly love how much he values his friendship with Aphmau. The transition to him merely putting up with Aphmau to actually being insanely overprotective over her is honestly amazing. And it's so gradual too, it doesn't happen overnight. You can see everyone around them wondering if they're dating, or if Aphmau is only hanging out with him because she feels bad, but no, she actually enjoys her time together. And you can see everyone warming up to the idea that Zayn is actually not that much of a bad person. We get more from Zayn when his mother visits him, and we learn that Zayn really is just misunderstood. And this whole episode kind of carries on until the finale of Mystreet Season 1, which makes this conversation that he has with Eren just absolutely amazing. And it's also surprising that he has way more to him than just being Aphmau's friend. It would be very easy just to make him a one-dimensional character that is just like, oh, he's just angry and he's also Aphmau's friend, but no, he has more to him. Bad habits, of course, are still there for when he was evil, and the way he speaks and reacts to things are mostly the same. He just hangs out with Aphmau now, and he's slightly a more nicer person, which is great because it shows growth. Aphmau is Zayn's only friend in Season 1, and she's one of the first people to actually give him the time of day, and I'm really glad that he ends up rooting for her at the end. He doesn't really have feelings, he just loves the friendship he was able to build with her. I want to mention really quickly though about the ships in Season 1. Zayn actually isn't shipped with anyone in the series other than the relationship he gets in later seasons, so the only shipping that happens is in Season 1, which is when Aphmau is like drunk or something and she tries to kiss him. And I'm just gonna say this real quick, I don't like the Zayn-Mao ship at all. I think Aphmau and Zayn really do get along well, but that doesn't mean that they have to be, dating. I don't really think they're compatible dating-wise in general, and that becomes more obvious in Season 3. The main problem I have with this relationship is that you can have friends of opposite genders, for one. Also, him being a relationship with his first real friend is gonna be all sorts of messy. That also leaves a lot of problems with his characters, and the development that Zayn goes through as the season progresses will never really happen if he ends up dating Aphmau. Some stuff of course will remain the same, but more problems in the relationship will come, like Zayn being super overprotective, and his way or the highway, and his inability to hang out with others. There's a lot of problems with Zayn's character in Season 1 and 3, but those are his flaws, and those are why he's not really compatible with dating anyone at the moment. I really do like the idea of them just being friends, and it's obvious that Zayn does kind of feel some way to some extent, but not really like a loving way. It's more so of like a crush, and that's because Aphmau simply gives him the time of day, and it's probably one of the first times he's actually able to just be honest and hang out with someone, so of course he's gonna have some crush. The conversation he has with Eren is a perfect example of how he feels. But yeah, anyways, the other relationship is with Michi. I really don't like Michi at all, but I can see why they would be together and why the fandom wouldn't mind if they were together, at least in Season 1. Michi is very much a menace to society, much like Zayn can be sometimes, but that's all we really know about her in the Mystreet universe. She's just kind of around to cause some funny shenanigans, which I'm sure would be great for old Zayn, but by the end of Season 1 of Mystreet, Zayn is already heading down a path of redemption, and I'm sure he wouldn't take kindly to being so sneaky and destructive all the time. Looking back, it's pretty much just another scenario of, oh, these two characters are the same, so I'm sure they could be friends and date, when in reality they wouldn't last very long because Zayn is changing and Michi never does. Alright, Season 2 of Mystreet. Love Paradise takes a bit of a different approach than Season 1 of Mystreet. I think this is the start of when things started sitting in a weird spot, because every character went through some slight changes, some for the better and some for the worse. Aphmau and Garth are easy examples as they both got slightly dumber and more comedic in Season 2, and it only pushes more onward in Season 3. Regardless though, this is actually a bit more memorable of a season because it was basically what Season 1 of Mystreet was, but just way better. A lot of characters got focused on and developed and grew quite a bit. Though Zayn isn't exactly one of them, he has his moments, but overall in this season, Zayn takes a bit of a backseat and remains the same while having some small but great development. At the beginning of episode 1, he tells everyone about Love Paradise because of his pony show, and he has another moment of mocking Aphmau and some other people, and it's definitely a bit more playful this time around. This is also sort of the start of Zayn's friendship with other characters, mostly with sort of Kawaii Chan. It starts with a simple moment of chance with Aphmau bringing up that Zayn really likes cute things, and he eats a lot of cupcakes. This easily brings something for him and Kawaii Chan to talk about, and it catches Zayn off guard when she wants to talk about sweets. In Season 3 of Mystreet, Zayn starts living with Garth and his boyfriend Lawrence, and it's shown that Zayn and Aphmau have been spending a little bit too much time together, and everyone kind of sees it as a bit unhealthy. This is especially bad when the maid cafe gets open and Zayn is really taking control of the business side and influencing Aphmau to do certain things and really takes up a lot of her time. This arc of Mystreet was always a bit weird to me, but looking at it in a different point of view really shows how much this mattered and how much it really helps these certain characters, like Zayn for example. He claims to know what is best for Aphmau, and during the breakup he just lets her sit and mope and gives her ice cream to eat away her feelings. And when her friends show up, he doesn't even let them in and continues to berate them because he thinks he knows best because he's her best friend. This is honestly a very surprising amazing arc for Zayn, because he truly does know her and do a lot of things for her, but he doesn't get that he isn't entitled to her, and that she needs to do other things. When Caitlyn and Lucinda are trying to walk through what happened, trying to tell Aphmau that maybe she kinda messed up, Zayn just says like, oh, you're bringing up bad memories and hurting Aphmau, and he acts completely irrational. And we get a really adult conversation that kind of blew me away. I'm surprised I didn't remember this. I guess it didn't hit because I was a kid and I didn't understand. Zayn really has been chasing people away from Aphmau just because of what he thinks or feels. Like Jean, for example. He isn't a bad guy anymore, but because there's some weird feelings still there, Zayn kept Aphmau close and basically acted like a guard dog. And Aphmau finally realizes this and tells him that she needs a little bit of space and maybe Zayn should spend some time with other people and make some new friends. And in the finale of season 3, Zayn says that no one made him feel happier than she did, and he let her be happy but got closer because he didn't want to lose her. This conversation with Garth hits so hard, especially after watching the first season of Minecraft Diaries. Garth is the perfect person to talk to Zayn about this, not only because he's his brother, but also because Garth was very much the same person in that series. In both Minecraft Diaries and season 1 of Mystreet, he couldn't let go and had to realize that it's okay to be there but also give space and not be overbearing. Zayn being able to talk to Garth like this is amazing, and this lesson will carry on to who Zayn will become in the future. Even though Zayn doesn't get too much of the spotlight since this season and also future seasons are all going to be about Aaron and Aphmau, it's still really cool that Zayn has developed insanely well. And then we get to season 4 of Mystreet. In case a lot of you forgot, because I kinda did, there were a few episodes that happened after season 3 that sets up season 4 and kinda bridged the gap. I honestly totally forgot about these, but I ended up actually just watching them because they were actually quite enjoyable. I felt very classic Mystreet compared to season 4 and 5, but of course that makes sense. The episode I specifically want to talk about is Akon Part 2. Kawaii Chan ends up breaking up with her boyfriend because they have nothing in common and they only ever do the devil's tango, and Zayn ends up talking with her. It first goes how you expect, with him laughing, but quickly changes his approach and wanting to listen. He then gives some solid feedback, telling her that it's okay to want someone to help you feel special, but you should want them for more reasons other than him acting the part of being a boyfriend. Once again, it's kinda strange how much I forgot about this. I only ever hear about the bad decisions in Aphmau's writing, but a lot of these moments and a lot of these topics are handled insanely well. They feel grounded and personal, and it kinda hits, I'm not gonna lie. But then we get to season 4. This season is rough for Zayn because he really doesn't have much to do other than be vandalized by Kim and Ghost and be a puppet and being controlled by the super bad person. It's kind of upsetting that he gets taken as a bit of a joke in this season. I understand that this season is about Aaron and the lore, but they kind of sacrifice some characters as they get to their season finale, which is a whole other video, but basically, long story short, I don't know why Kim is here. I didn't really like her. I felt like she didn't really belong, and she was only ever here to get possessed by Ghost and give lore in the later seasons. Also, Ian's choice of being insanely petty and creepy is weird, but I guess. This season is very weird for some characters, and Zayn doesn't do much, and he isn't exactly acting out of character for the most part, but it's still weird what they do with him. Honestly, you could have just taken him out and replaced him with another character, and not too much will change. Him being controlled and manipulated by Ian and having Ghost stalk him doesn't help or fix his character or really do anything. It is interesting though that after the spell is broken and Zayn is no longer being controlled, he ends up venting a bit about it, and we actually get a really cool conversation with him and Garth. And to be fair, this is very cool because he ends up opening a lot to someone who isn't Aphmau. But this comes at the end of season 4, the final episode. It's still nice to see regardless, but I'm not complaining, of course, but it's the final episode that we get a Zayn moment. Overall though, Zayn is forming bonds with his brother and trusting other people, and it's very cool. I like it a lot. Still gonna mention that this season doesn't do much for Zayn though. Moving on, okay. We finally move on to season 5, and it's more so kind of the same, since the focus is also mostly on Aphmau and Aaron with occasional cutaways to other characters and introducing new ones. It really doesn't leave much room for these characters. We kind of have to rush through a few things. But I will say, this season showcases how much of Zayn and Garth's bond has really grown. Normally Zayn would just yell at Garth and complain, but he tells him that it isn't his fault and he has more patience. He even stops himself from yelling and holds back a little bit because Garth is just trying to help out in this situation. Honestly, the old Zayn is kind of nowhere to be seen anymore. He has grown so much. A lot of Zayn's time is spent when hanging out with Kawaii Chan and them establishing their friendship. The little things she does for him, like bringing an extra lotion for Zayn and listening to him, is cute, and it's satisfying to see them both open up a bit to each other and have Kawaii Chan tell Zayn more personal stuff. I love how much Zayn is caught off guard by this, but this is the fruits of his labor. This is what happens when you're good. He really has become a nice guy and someone who others can depend on, and he really has done a good job in understanding other people. You can easily tell with the way he talks to others. Of course, he still does a bit of trolling, but it's more playful. It's very understandable why Nana would fall in love with him. He doesn't understand or like the idea of her shipping, but he is able to listen and give her the time of day and want to help her out because it's something she cares about. And when you look at Nana's character, she's actually kind of similar to Zane. This whole thing kind of mirrors Zane's arc in a way, since no one was able to do that with him until Aphmau came around. It's kind of poetic. Someone was there for him and now he's there for Nana. And this all builds up to her confessing. I get why it's a bit problematic, but dang it, I love this. Nana only jumped the gun because she felt threatened by Ghost, but I still love this. What I don't like though is Ghost, because once again, I never really liked Kim or Ghost, I'm not gonna lie, but I really want to talk about Zayn and Nana's relationship more, but this video's already getting long, so I'll have to save that for now. Long story short, Zayn is actually the one to ask Nana for a date, and some shenanigans happen. They do end up having a great time, of course, but there has to be hurdles in this story. I never liked the scene, I hated it, I always hate how dirty they did Garth as time went on, and Zayn really didn't deserve this. He's a good boy. It does show though Zayn's maturity on how he reacts to a misunderstanding, but I don't like this. It's a good lesson though. It's a good thing for him and Nana to grow from, but this really didn't have to happen. The conversation's good though. I like it. It hits, but I still hate that this happened. This is horrible. This then brings us to now, which is season 6, and it's kind of complicated because it doesn't actually show any real development, and it's more so a plot washing over the characters, so I'm not really going to talk about season 6. I also didn't really say much about Phoenix Drop High or Falcon Claw University because it doesn't really do much other than establish the character and give backstory, and I also don't really like Falcon Claw University at all, but fine, I'll say something. In Phoenix Drop High Season 1, Zane was basically a rebelling teenager who tried to fit in with other rebellious kids. He always felt like he was in his brother's shadow. A lot of Season 1 of Phoenix Drop High when it came to Zane's character was kind of tell and not showing. I wish there was way more than a few scenes here and there. We always hear Zane talk about how much it sucked to be the younger brother and try harder to get noticed, but we never had time to establish that and kind of see that. Zane was kind of always a background character in the high school days, but go figure, he never really had a reason to be around. In season 2 though, there's a bit more happening, with Zane now being the leader of the Shadow Knights. I don't know how he did it. And him trying to impress everyone by becoming more of a bad boy. Ooh, dang, I can fix. And we get a bit of him in Graduation Days, but he's only really there to say some mean stuff and walk away. I also feel like this ruins the continuity, because like, Aphmau and Zane really do hate each other, and it's implied that Zane did a lot of stuff off screen, which was senior year and junior year of high school, with his whole Shadow Knight gang and all that, but once again, we never see this. Oh yeah, also apparently Zane is a racist! Honestly though, I feel like this scene is very weird because like, why would Aphmau ever give Zane the time of day in the future when Zane isn't likable at all? Him being in Falcon Claw University doesn't really do much. He's just kind of shown to be a menace to society one more time, and yeah, he's just kind of an asshole. They try and play it off with him thinking that he's just trying to act tough, but this is just kind of hard to watch. This is horrible. But yeah, that's basically everything. Thank you all so much for watching this video. It was a little bit of a longer one, but I definitely enjoyed it. And let me know what you think in the comments below. I always read all my comments, and once again, if you have an idea or anything you want me to talk about, then please leave in the comments down below. It really does help me a lot because I need ideas. So yeah, please give me ideas. But yeah, I guess I don't really have much more to say. So thank you all so much for watching this video, and I'll talk to you all next time. Goodbye!